Hello, everybody. Welcome to the eighth. I think it's the eighth. I lose track of the number of episodes that we're on now. But yeah, welcome to LPodcast'N. This week we are joined by Paige, who was on a couple of weeks ago talking about being a STEM student at the Uni of Manchester and kind of some of the pressures that come along with that. This week, kind of linked to something that Paige and Jacob were both talking about when we spoke previously about being a Manchester Access program student, which Paige was, and talking a little bit about her experiences with feeling imposter syndrome, that kind of thing. Yeah, so hey Paige, how you doing?
Hi, I'm okay, thank you. I'm good.
Is the pressures of being a STEM student still relevant to you like 2 weeks later?
Oh, definitely. If anything, it's gotten worse. We've hit I think a lot of people, we've all hit the week 3 slump, and that's always good.
Really, is that a thing?
Yeah. It's like, I think you always like hit a wall at some point, but it's weird because you find that everyone seems to hit it at the same time. It's almost like a herd mentality, I guess. And like you're like, oh, I feel really like demotivated this week, like I'm not doing any work, and everyone else is like, you know what, I feel the exact same. It's like we're all in like sync.
It might be because you go through first semester, then you have a break, then you have that big push for exams, and it's kind of like then after that you just feel deflated after a while.
Yeah, especially because like Christmas break, it's not really a break. It's
Exactly.
always making notes and revising and trying to get a step up. I'm so glad we had this week off though. I think a lot of people were grateful that this year we were given the week off after exams, because if not, I don't even know what would have happened, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I remember I had a lecturer and we had like 3 essays due in January, and we were like moaning about it to her, and then she was like, yeah, it's so tough, and then laughing because she was the one that sent us all the work for that date. Like she could have chosen, but just getting along with it fine. Okay, anyway, like I spoke about you earlier, which you didn't know exactly the term, but a MAP student, Manchester Access Program student. We also have MDAS students who are Manchester Distance Access Learning, which is basically the same scheme up for students not from Manchester. So what do you, if you remember anything at all, what do you remember about doing that scheme? Like how did it like motivate you to get to the Uni of Manchester and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I remember I did the MDAS scheme actually.
Oh,
I remember. Yeah, because that's like I had the word scheme in my head. I knew it came from somewhere.
Okay, well then that's why I was confusing you saying map earlier.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was worried if I like made this whole thing up and I just like imagined this whole process, but I kind of remember like I had like this course to complete on Blackboard. It was just like I had to like watch some videos and then answer a quiz. It was on like thermodynamics, I remember, because I think it was kind of related to like what you might learn in foundation year a little bit. But it was also linked to some stuff you learn in second semester of first year as well. But something I do remember like kind of vividly was like when I went in to have my interview, and like I sat down, met the like lecturer who was in the academic who was interviewing me, and I could see like his sheet that I'm assuming was for me, and it was just like reams and reams of like highlighted information, and I was thinking like, what is this man like flagging up about me that he's had to highlight? But I think it is kind of weird because it's like they do make a big song and dance like, oh, you're like a deprived student to some extent, and it's like, okay, I get it, like that's great. it's definitely beneficial. Like I definitely benefited from the reduced offer that was given. Like I remember being like, I'm so glad I've been given this like opportunity. Um, but it is kind of weird in a way, I think. I don't know how to describe it.
No.
But
It's something
yeah.
that's kind of like a recurring conversation within like those kind of ideas. How much do you focus on the seemingly or like perceptively like negative aspect of it, or like how do you frame it, basically?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, oh, on the one hand, it's like, oh, like, you know, I've been pulled out as someone who, like, they've looked at me and said, this person's not going to do very well. They're from like a bad background. They're not going to do very well. So like, let's give them a lower offer. Let's like give them an extra little bit of like work to do. But then on the other hand, it's like you've been recognized as someone who, despite the situation you're in, that might not be ideal, you have potential and you have the ability to do well, and they're like taking your context into consideration to ensure you're still offered the opportunity that like a number of years ago you might not have even had in the same position. So I think it's very, you have to like, it's, yeah, like you said, it depends on how you frame it and how you look at it. Definitely.
So do you think there's a better way that the uni can frame it and like to make
it into a more positive experience, a more like self-fulfilling prophecy, not like a deficit model?
Just trying to think, to be honest.
No, it's tough. It's something that people that
manage like those sort of projects like spend a lot of time thinking about.
It's definitely a weird one because, you know, like I just said, you're literally being flagged up for being from a bad situation, a bad area, like whatever your background is, like something has flagged up that has put you in that position. Honestly, I wasn't that bothered because I think I'm quite aware of my situation. So like it wasn't so much when I was given the opportunity, but it was more when I got into uni. And I started, and then I was like, this is why I was given that opportunity, because you realize that you're generally not on the same kind of starting point as other students. And even now in my third year of my degree, I can still feel that disparity in certain areas. So I think it's like, for me personally, I had no issue with the way it was kind of phrased, because like I kind of knew I was going to get offered something like that. Like I've been offered other things before where I've been given stuff based on basic like my context, for lack of a better word. Like I did like the Sutton Trust summer school when I was in like year 12, because I went to a school and I had like 5 A's at GCSE. So I was considered, I was like, wow, amazing. And I know for some people that's like, you got 5 A's and then they like, oh, is that it? And it's like, but for my school, that was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. So yeah, it's definitely more when you get to university, I think work needs to be done rather than leading up to it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's actually something I've spoken about with other
like access program students. That's something that I felt as well, like getting to uni and then kind of the support that you get before to get there kind of stops, and you're kind of just like thrown into the deep end and kind of are a bit unsure of what's going on.
Yeah, like definitely. It's kind of like they do all this stuff to like accommodate you and get you in, and you're like, wow, like this is great, like I'm glad I've come here, whatever. And then you get there and you're like, oh my God, okay, like at my school, I was considered like one of like the gifted and talented students. I don't know if like your school had like those schemes, but I was always considered like smart and great, and obviously that would be a case for like a lot of students. But then like when you go to university, you realize that like the parameters for smart that you've been perhaps like put up against is not what a lot of other people had. And it's like this, I feel like my standard is much poorer than other people's standards. And people say that no one cares where you went to school or anything, like no one cares what you did at sixth form, college, secondary school, when you come to university, like, but it still, you can feel it sometimes. Like I've had people say, oh, like this should be a really easy thing to get actually, because you should have learnt this at GCSE. And it's like, well, I didn't necessarily have the best experience of like maths in school, for instance, until year 11. And it's like, it's just like little things, I think, that over time build up, and that really adds to the imposter syndrome of like, oh my God, like I know nothing, I have no background, like these people like got like A stars, they were like doing all this cool extracurricular stuff, they had all these opportunities, and then you're just there who like compared to them you like barely scraped through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I think it's interesting from your perspective of it being like a like academic like grades kind of thing. I guess from my perspective as a history student, a lot of it was like a cultural thing, just like feeling like I didn't fit in with the like, because like you go to college and like friends with like everyone, friends with everyone, like feel quite comfortable in that space, and then get into uni with like the kind of people that are at uni studying history as well.
Yeah.
Kind of just feel like I don't really like belong with these kind of people, because no one can really relate to like my experiences of school and stuff.
Yeah.
That ultimately dealt or dealt with.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you'd hear like students be like, oh, like I did this in school, I did that in school, like I had a really good teacher, I did this, I did that, and then you're there like, I mean, I had a teacher for like 1 week once, like for physics. I had a physics teacher at GCSE for like not even a month. I think you definitely do find that like I don't know, like I think because one of like the key differences I think I found between like what you might consider a bad background, I'm talking for myself in terms of like school and academia, like that's how I got into the access scheme. Obviously for like different situations it's different, but like for me, who came from like what you would describe as like perhaps like a bad academic background versus like a standard or like a good one, mine was very much just focused on trying to get through the content, trying to get my grades, trying to do it. But like other places, I feel like they had more time to like really develop an interest in the subject, and like read around it. So in terms of like the culture and stuff, I feel like I'm kind of like a fake chemist, because I don't have much extra information in my brain or extra knowledge. Like I just thought, oh, I like chemistry at uni. I like chemistry. I think it's pretty cool. I'm pretty good at it, so I'll go and study it. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's so,
if that makes sense.
so interesting, because I've like even now having a master's in history, like if someone's like, oh, you're a historian, I'm like, I'm not really a historian. I don't really feel like a historian. History was just like a subject that I enjoyed and did at uni.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, wow. Because like, and a lot of the people that I went to uni with would consider themselves, and just in the way that they act,
like feel like historians for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got quite lucky. My year group is pretty nice overall. I don't think anyone goes out of their way to act like snobbish, I suppose, or a bit nasty, but it can sometimes feel quite alienating, I think, when people are like, oh, this is like easy stuff, or oh, like I think the lecturer explained it really well, but like for you, what they were saying was like very outlandish and things like that. Like often I do think, oh, I'm just like stupid, I shouldn't be here, I'm doing something wrong. But then like I think I stopped myself and realized actually I am from a different background to these people. Like I was recognized by the university for it. Like I come from like I said, like a different context and stuff, so I should probably stop comparing myself to people who went to like grammar schools, went to private schools, you know, had all these other opportunities that I might not have had, and maybe just try and look at myself rather than worry about what everyone else is kind of managing to do or what everyone else is doing and thinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. In terms of like, because you mentioned imposter syndrome, and it's something that we've, as like the LPN, have kind of mentioned a lot, spoken about quite a lot. Was there like practical ways that kind of manifested itself into like how you acted in class or anything like that? Like I remember like honestly my first like 3 years of undergrad, I mean my entire undergrad, I like barely spoke at all in class, which is crazy considering what I was like in my masters and now. Kind of like just found that quite hard to like feel comfortable in the space to be able to like properly express myself. Were there any like practical ways that imposter syndrome, like feeling of not belonging, kind of manifested itself?
Well, during exam season, I think I'm quite unbearable. Like before, like the night before exams, no matter how hard I prepared, I will literally just fall apart, and I'll be like, I know nothing. Oh my god, this is terrible. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I'll think I'm not prepared. I think I also do this thing where like I kind of play on the fact that I'm like, or at least I think I'm stupid. I'm like, oh guys, like I know I'm dumb, like ha ha ha. And I think that's something I've always done. It's like if I make jokes that I think I'm stupid, then it's okay that other people think I am because I'm like self-aware. But it's like I should probably give myself a bit more credit about it. I'm not necessarily quiet, but I am quiet in terms of like, I don't know, when I, yeah, like I think I've always like been like, it's better to ask and look stupid than stay quiet and know nothing. But I think the fact I ask so many questions is kind of a way of manifesting itself, because I always think I've done something wrong, I've misread something, oh, I haven't done enough, let me ask a question. Like,
Yeah.
I always have to ask because I think the way I've interpreted it or the way I've understood it can't be right. Or if maybe there's a mistake or a discrepancy, I think rather than maybe the lecturer explained it like badly or maybe didn't word it in the best way, I just assume it's my fault. And I think a lot of my question asking definitely kind of comes from the imposter syndrome. And I even get it like at work. I get it. It really affects everywhere in my life. Like I'm always like, I need to do like all these tasks. I need to make sure I do enough. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's always like asking questions and putting too much pressure on myself and like overloading myself with work to feel like I'm doing something substantial.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. It's interesting that like the same kind of form like manifests itself into like two different ways of dealing with it, which is very interesting. It's kind of like the like it's kind of the confidence that comes with like having a standard or like great education. It kind of like gives you that confidence that you don't need to like doubt yourself or like have any second thoughts about like what you're capable of, whether you can speak in class, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. If you have that foundation, I think you're not afraid or you're not as doubtful in yourself. I think definitely.
Yeah. Okay, finally, just wanna like, what do you think the the library peer network, for example, is one thing, but obviously it's hard with the campus closed. But what do you think the uni can and like should do to kind of bridge that gap, to kind of help students feel more comfortable in the space, which is kind of like inherently elitist almost? What do you think the uni can and should do to kind of overcome that?
I think the LPN is definitely a step in the right direction, but it should be a starting point rather than a finish. Like that's it. Like we've offered something, that's great.
Yeah.
I think that maybe feeling more support from the university itself rather than like a team of students. Like I think feeling it from the university on a university level would be really nice. Like I think after I completed my access course, actually, I just got an email saying like, oh, okay, you've completed it, cool. And that was like the last I heard from them. I just think the university just needs to get more actively involved, maybe offering sessions for like helping with maths, for instance, for like STEM, because like I think a lot of people get quite overwhelmed with maths, like even if they're not necessarily from like a widening participation background, maybe they didn't do it at A level, maybe they didn't do so well, like there's all sorts of reasons. So I think offering that on a more general scale or giving departments and faculties the facilities to offer it in such a way that it won't overwhelm their current studies, but like complement it. Because I know first year is all about getting people on an even playing field, but like I'm in third year and sometimes I feel like I'm like, 10 leagues below everyone else. So I think more work definitely needs to be done in terms of supporting once you get into university and beyond, and just maybe some more things that kind of that would benefit those widening participation students, but maybe won't kind of call them out or name check them for being widening participation, because I think it is still relevant that you're a widening participation student, because that will affect your university experience in your university life in terms of academia, probably for like the whole time basically. But it shouldn't define you. Like it's like part of who you are, not like who you actually are, if that makes sense. But it's something that still needs to be acknowledged, but it shouldn't be like, oh, that person's like a wider participation student, so like they should probably be like a bit rubbish, like it should just be like they're a wider participation student, so they might face these challenges. How can we help them overcome it and like work at them a bit better, if that makes sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh well, I think like everything you've said has been incredible. We kind of need to let me send this to the higher ups at Uni Manchester and we'll get some real change this podcast. Yeah, okay. So well, thank you very much, Paige, for coming along to speak a little bit about that.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.